Hello, welcome to Ella's Academy, Mathematics third term, and what we are doing now is what we call Pythagoras theorem. Students, what are we doing? Pythagoras theorem. And what is Pythagoras theorem? Pythagoras theorem is talking about three sides. It's talking about what? Three sides. So we use three sides to define our Pythagoras theorem, which are hypotenuse, opposites, and adjacent. And don't forget, this our right angle triangle is what we are using to explain this Pythagoras theorem, whereby we have also 1, 2, 3, and each of these sides they have name. So there is name attached to each of them. So the theorem of Pythagoras says that square of hypotenuse is equal to the sum of square. Is equal to the what? The sum or the square of the sum of opposite and adjacent side. Now, how can we identify our opposite and adjacent side? Now, any side facing our angle 90 degree here, we call it hypotenuse. We call it what? Hypotenuse. We call it hypotenuse. Then any side facing this angle here, angle A, we call it opposite. It is called what? Opposite. And between this angle and angle 90 degree, this side is at the back of both of them, then we call it adjacent. We call it what? Adjacent. So it is very important to identify the three sides. The first one is hypotenuse. And how do we identify our hypotenuse? We can identify our hypotenuse by saying that any side facing angle 90 degree here is our hypotenuse. Is our what? Hypotenuse. And any side facing this angle A here, we call it opposite. And between angle A and B is what? Adjacent. It's called what? Adjacent. So let's look at the Pythagoras rule. Let's look at what? Pythagoras rule. So we want to look at Pythagoras rule. And what we said earlier is that any side facing angle 90 is what? Hypotenuse. And any side facing this angle is our opposite. And between angle 90 and this angle is our adjacent. So what is the law all about? So our AC is our hypotenuse, Abi? Our AC is what? Hypotenuse. So we say that hypotenuse squared, which is the same thing as our AC, is equals to opposite squared plus adjacent squared. Students, is that clear? Hypotenuse squared equals to opposite squared plus adjacent squared. So we add these two sides together to get our hypotenuse because it's the larger place. If you look at this line, the largest line here is this one. And this and this, they are the same. Addition of these two sides will give us hypotenuse. Now, if we add these two sides together to get hypotenuse, to get opposites, will now be hypotenuse squared minus adjacent squared. So what we did to opposite, we are going to do it to adjacent. That means adjacent squared equals to hypotenuse squared minus opposite squared. So that means from here, it's as if we are saying the same thing, that our AC squared equals to AB squared, our opposite, okay, BC, our BC squared, plus AB squared. That means our opposite squared, which is BC, our BC squared equals to AC squared, AC, don't forget our hypotenuse, minus adjacent squared, AB squared. To get AB squared equals to hypotenuse, AC squared minus BC squared. So anyone you use, you are going to get the same answer. We are going to get what? The same answer. So this is part 1 of this class. In part 2 we are going to take examples. So after the examples I give you your exercise. Thank you.